Okay, welcome back. Now in this part of the Atlantis folio tutorial, we're going to be adding all of our pattern paper, as you can see. So I haven't added anything to the cover part. I've just been working a little bit on the inside. All the pieces that I've done so far, I haven't finished them. Everything that I've done so far is just measuring the piece of cardstock that you want to put the pattern paper on and cutting a piece to fit that is just slightly smaller so you have that little black border. So nothing too crazy yet. I've started, this is the bottom part's pretty much the only part that I have done completely, and the only extra little thing that I did was add a little ribbon pull here, because I found that when you just went like this, something else would open up, so I wanted this whole section to easily pull up. So I just put just in between the pattern paper, I put a little pull tab here. So now I wanted to go over to the right side, because this is where we're going to have our swing tabs. So these two are just normally like matted simply. I've been distressing all the edges with ground espresso. You don't have to do that, I just like the look of it. And now I am about to put the swing tabs on. So one's going to go here. So put the pattern paper on the front but not the back of these pieces, and figure out where it is you want your swing tab to go. Alright, and make sure that it's going to be able to swing out of the way. Alright, so now take your crocodile, or take something to punch a hole, and punch a hole in your chipboard. I have just taken some of the pattern paper, used a 1.5 inch punch, and just punched a piece of the paper out and then matted it on black chipboard. Okay, so now I'm going to place it here where I want the swing tab to go, and then I'm going to take a pen, that won't work, a real pen, a pen, pencil, something to mark. Okay, so I'm just in the hole, I'm just going to make a little mark. And so there it is right there, you can barely see it. And then I'm going to take my piercing tool and I'm going to make a little hole. And then find my brads. And I'm going to go with silver, so I'm going to get a couple brads out. So put your brad through the piece, your swing tab, and then put it through, oops, I don't think my hole is quite big enough. Oh, there we go. Okay, and then open the tines on the other side. Alright, and there you've got your swing tab. And now you can put pattern paper on the other two sides, but we're also going to put a swing tab here. So I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to punch a hole, line it up, make a mark, and punch a hole. And then open the tines. All right, excellent. And now I can finish putting all my pattern paper on. And don't forget about these gussets. You probably want to put some pattern paper in these gussets as well. So that goes like that. And then these close. And the other side. So like I said, I haven't finished putting the pattern paper on. I guess I can do that with you, but before we do that, I just want to, well, we have the crocodile out. I want to use some of these Tim Holtz ring fasteners as little pulleys for these ones. Now, I don't think I'm going to put one on the front, but I'm going to put them on the rest. I'm going to first make a little hole on this one. And you don't have to use these. You can use whatever you want, or not anything at all. You don't have to put any pulleys at all, but you could. I just think it's cool because that way they know, the person looking at it knows which way it's supposed to pull up, and I just like the look of them. So there's one, and then this goes to the side, so I'm going to use another one here. You could also use gemstones or maybe a flower, or you can really use whatever you want, just so there's something there so people kind of know that it opens. Alright, and then I'm also going to put one up here and then one here. I'm going to try and get it even with the bottom one. Is that even? I think so. Okay, and then one last one over here. I'm going to try and make it even with the one on the other side. And so most of the decorating of this is pretty basic. You're just, you know, measuring the piece you want to cover and making it a little bit smaller. So I'm not going to do, most of it I'm not going to do on film. I'm going to, just in case, because I don't know what kind of paper you're using. Most people probably are using a different paper collection, so I'll let you do all that. So I'm going to finish just covering up all the magnets and everything. So I'm going to cut out my pattern paper, and then I'm going to come back to you because I want to do the covers with you, because we're going to have that corset part and everything. So I'm going to go over the whole cover part with you. So before you start decorating, make sure you keep aside a couple pieces of paper. I've got mine set aside here. For the cover, you've got your 8.5 by 3 piece of chipboard, so you're going to have to cover that. We'll go over that, but just make sure that you keep a piece of paper that is 5 by 10.5. Okay, and then these are going to go around the sides, so here, 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 and here on the outside. Okay, so these all measure 3 by 8, 2 of those 3 by 8.5. And then for the front portion, you'll need something that matches the other piece of paper that you've chosen, and they are 3.5 by 8.5. And then for the back, you will need one piece that measures 8 by 7.5, or thereabouts. So make sure you keep those like 2 coordinating sheets aside with the piece that we're going to do as the corset, and don't use those to cover any of the rest of it because we're going to need those. So set those aside, and I will leave you for now to choose your own paper designs, and I will be back once I have finished covering this with pattern paper, and we'll do the whole front cover together. Okie doke. Okay, so now that we have got, you can see what happens when I'm crafting is that everything gets very, very messy. So now we've got most of the inside done, so whatever paper collection you're using, get it to this stage where you've got your pattern paper, and now we can begin work on the outside. So what we're going to do first, we're going to set this whole book aside for a second, and we are going to cover your 8.5 by 3 inch piece of chipboard that will be the corset. So I've put score tape on the back. You can also use wet glue. So what we're going to do is we're going to adhere it down to the paper, and we're going to wrap it just like you would wrap the covers of a mini album. So I'm just going to remove the backing. Maybe remove the backing. There we go. Okay, so place it down on the back side of whatever paper it is that you're using. The paper needs to be 1 inch extra all around, so that would make it 10.5 by 5. Now we're going to add either glue or score tape all around the edges. Okay, and I think I'm going to use, that was a 1/2 inch. I think I'm going to use a little bit of the 1/4 inch as well and just get it right in here. Okay, now miter the corners, but leave just a little bit, at the corner. Don't cut it right to the chipboard. Leave just a little bit of space. Oh, I think I cut a little bit too much off that one. Okay, get those out of the way. Remove your tape backing. Come on, come on. Okay, tape backing, get that all out of the way. And now we're going to kind of roll it over, kind of encourage it up and press it down. I like to do the long sides first. Do the same on the other side. Now you're going to have these little bits that stick out at the corners, so use your fingernail or the side of a pair of scissors or something and kind of push in those corners, and that way you won't have a sharp edge at the corner. So kind of just poke those in, and then we'll do the same with these small sides. Alright, fabulous. So this is what you're going to punch all your holes in for your corset. Okay, so now we want to mark the center of this so we know where our first rivet, our eyelet is going to go. So we know it's 8.5, so we want to go 4.25. So just on the very edge, I'm just going to make a tiny little mark so I know where 4.25 is. Okay. You can't really see it, but just make sure you can see your own mark. And then get your crocodile and punch a hole right at the line where you've marked that. And I want to go in about, what is that? Maybe not quite that, about 1/2 inch. Yeah, that looks about right. Okay, and now you're going to do the same on the other side and try to go as even as you can. Okay, and now we're going to make 2 more up here, 2 more here, 2 more here, and 2 more here. So I'm going to mark again. I'm going to be a little bit more precise than just eyeballing it, just because I do want it to look good. So we're at 4.25. So 2 more. So we basically want, what would that be? Alright, so you do want these to be fairly even because it's a corset. So I marked the center point, which was 4.25, and then using a ruler, I went with a pen and just put a dot at just past the 1/2 inch mark, and then at 2 3/8, 4.25, 6 1/8, and 8. So they're not perfect, but that's the measurements that I came up with. And then I did the same on the other side, so they're fairly even. I've already started putting some of the rivets in, so, or eyelets, I keep calling them rivets, eyelets. So you put it in the hole and take your crocodile if you have one. If you don't have a crocodile, you will need a special tool, but I can't remember what it's called, and a hammer because what you need to do is this metal part has to flatten out. So if you have a crocodile, it's much easier. And the settings, these little bits move, so set them to, this one should be at C and the opposite one should be at number 2. So C and 2, and there's a little, it's really hard to see, but there's this little pokey thing that comes out of the number 2 part. That has to go into this part of the eyelet. Okay, so you've got that part on the front. This part has to go into the eyelet, squeeze, and it flattens it out. Okay, so we're going to do that with all of the eyelets until you've got all 10 of them in place. And then we will lace it up. Two more to go. And I needn't have worried about putting this piece of paper on. I don't know what I was thinking, because you're going to have to cover this anyway because you don't want the eyelet holes showing. So silly me. I'm just not on the ball, apparently. Okay, so your eyelets are in. Now choose whatever ribbon it is that you would like to use. I'm going to use black. Not sure how much I'm going to need, so I'm just going to kind of, well, that's all I have, so hopefully this is enough. So I'm going to feed it through, let's see here. Alright, I'm going to do this off camera. It's just like, you know, lacing things up. I think it just might take me a little while because this is wider ribbon. So just lace it up just as you would a corset or a boot or anything. And we will return and I'll show you how to put it onto your album. Okay, so once you have tied your piece of ribbon on your corset, I just started from the back, went across, and then went back through, so everyone had the cross. I don't know if that makes sense, but I've gone through each of these holes twice is what I'm trying to say. So now we are going to attach this to our folio. So let's close it up. And now we need to put our piece of paper here first. So let's find the right ones. Okay, that is the right one. So these, it looks just a tiny bit too long. I'm going to snip it off just a little bit. What do I have this at? So these, your front pieces should measure just over 8 1/4 by about 3 1/2. So what are these? These are, okay, I've just got them a smidge too long, so I'm just going to snip a tiny bit off each of these. Just snip them together just a tiny bit. And then I'm just going to re-ink them. Okay. Let's try that again. Okay, so I've already got score tape on the back, so we're going to put one of them on here. Remove the score tape backing. And I've put quite a bit of score tape on because I really want it to adhere well. Okay, so line this up. And it doesn't have to go all the way to this edge because we're going to be covering each of these rounded parts with pattern paper as well. So that goes there, and now this is going to glue on top of that. So when we close it up, we want to make sure that it's in the center. Okay, so we are going to put glue just on this half, and you want to use wet glue because there's bulk here, so you want to make sure that it really adheres. Now where's my wet glue? Okay, so the bow's going at the top, so you want it just on the left hand side, I guess right when you flip it over. Okay. So close this back up again and place it right in the center. Now it's going to take quite a bit of pressure because you've got all that ribbon, so you really have to push it down. Now we will be putting a piece of paper here to cover that up. It will get a little bulky because you've got that ribbon again, but I mean, I guess it looks kind of cool like that, but I'm going to cover it up. However, first, to keep our whole album closed, we need to put some magnets. So I'm going to put 4 magnets in between each of the ribbon bits. Remove the backing. And then 2 magnets on each of these. And a little more score tape. Sorry. My cat's very upset that I'm not paying attention to him right now. Okay, now we can close up our book. Oh, it's still not. I guess you have to really make sure that is dry first. Mine is not completely dry, apparently. Okay, now let's open it and make sure all the magnets stuck. Yes, they did. Perfect. Okay, so now that you have your magnets on, we can add your pattern paper to the other side here. So, I've already got some score tape on the back of this. You can also use wet glue if you prefer. So I'll just remove the backing. Sorry if you can hear that in the background. One of my cats has found some bubble wrap and is going to town on it. Bubble wrap's fun for everyone. Okay, so if I haven't already said the measurements of this, I will find my ruler and try to tell you. Okay, so these 2 side pieces measure 3.5 by 8 1/4. You could make it slightly wider if you want. You could go 3 3/4 if you prefer. But we will be adding, like I said, the pattern paper to the edges, so it will cover a little bit of this. Alright, so that is that. Now we will add our patterned paper to these 2 parts, and those pieces measure 4 3/4 by just shy of 7 3. So remove your score tape backing or apply your wet adhesive, whichever you prefer. I probably went a little bit crazy with the score tape, but I just wanted to make sure it really stayed down there. I'm going to take a piece of the pattern paper to cover those magnets. So it is 1.5 inches by 8 1/4, I believe. And I recommend using wet adhesive for this. Just over, yeah, just shy of 8 1/4, but you can make it 8 1/4. Okay. Okay, and then our back piece, the back piece measures just shy of 8 by 7.5, and again it's slightly smaller because of we're going to be covering a lot of the edges, so it is slightly, I want to go this way. So it is slightly smaller, but we'll be putting pattern paper here, 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 here. Okay. Okay, now close it up. The magnets aren't quite as strong once there's like 5 layers of paper. Let's make sure. Okay. And now we can add our pieces to the sides. What do we got here? Okay, so the 2 long sides I have at 3 by 8.5. So they're just going to kind of go around like that, and then I might put some bling on the edge there. And then the 2 that will go on these parts are, I believe it's still 3 by 8. Okay, so we're going to adhere those to the edges now. Now we'll add our other piece to this side. And now we can open it up and add them to this part. and to the bottom. Now this is all decorative. You don't have to do this if you don't want to. This is more just aesthetic than it is anything else. So just so you know that, if you decide you do not want to do this part. Yeah. Alright, well that is the gist of it. So decorate to your little heart's desire. If you want to add a few more little embellishments or anything, go feel free. And you've just made yourself a folio. So there we go. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I feel like I was a little off on this one on a few parts, but thank you so much for being with me and have a good day. Thanks. Bye.